Hey, before we jump into habits, I think it's important to actually dig into thoughts. And as I alluded to before in the intro, thoughts lie. Like there's a lot of thoughts that we have in our given day that we believe to be true. And it could be our past experiences, our environments, what others tell us, observations. But in most cases, they're not true, right? It's just our own little reality that we think of. But when we really dig in and ask the right questions, we find out that there's these series of thoughts, and Dr. Daniel Amen calls them ants, automatic negative thoughts that flood our brain, and they can literally take over our decisions and how we lead our day from a day-to-day basis. So what I'd like to do is give you a short intro around what those ants are, what a particular ant thought looks like, which ones you might have, so you can kind of reflect on that. And then I want to actually provide you the resources to do a little bit of a deeper dive with some exercises around what ants might be in your life that are impacting your thoughts. And what's really neat about ants too is you can do this with your kids. And so there's a book out there that Dr. Daniel Amen wrote called Captain Snout, and we bought it for our family. And it goes through the nine ants, and then it also builds a illustration and a story for kids, like a real life story about what kids truly do if you observe on a daily basis. And whether you have kids or nephews or just observing kids, they all talk like these ants. They all have these thoughts of these ants, and then when you're a parent or an adult, you do too. So let's cover the nine ants. All right. So the first ant is the all or nothing thinking ant. So this ant is basically everything is all good or all bad. So anytime a thought comes in, the words all always pop up in your head, or it could be all good. It could be yes, like this particular thing is always good or always bad. And so it's the all or nothing ant. There's no gray. It's just straight black and white, good or bad. The next ant is considered to be the always ant, or always, never, no one, everyone, everything. Everything gets bucketed together. As far as there's no movement. Like as soon as you say something always works or something always doesn't, like he never unloads the dishwasher, right? Which is probably not true. Like it maybe doesn't do it that often, or she doesn't do it that often, but it's never a never in most cases. The next ant is focusing on negatives. So you only see the bad in every situation. So you're going to get in a car, and because maybe family recently got in a car accident, or you did when you were a kid, you have this thought of, well, we might get an accident if we go this way, or getting on the highway is dangerous, or just the first thought you have besides safety, obviously, is negative, and so that would be a focus on negative. Fortune telling, predicting the worst possible outcome of a situation with no evidence, right? In other words, like you go to do something, and before you even do it, you already hypothesize what could happen. In most cases, it's predicting the worst outcome. Like, I'm not going to start this business because I'm not going to make any money. Well, is that true? I mean, you can't really know that for sure, and especially if you put in the time and the effort and it's something you care about. Like, yeah, absolutely, there's an opportunity to make money, and so you predict the future and you tell yourself a narrative that's not true. Mind reading. A lot of us like to believe that we can actually tell how a person's feeling or what they're thinking, and we just can't. Unless you're telepathic, you have some abilities, then maybe. And yes, there are visual cues and things like that that you can do to measure people's behaviors. Actually, there's been a ton of studies done around negotiations and everything like that about how you can read people's eyes and their mouths and everything to see how they're feeling, they're thinking. But again, like it's really assumptive because we don't know for sure. And so when in doubt, mind reading, I throw it out, right? Like ask the question, thinking with your feelings. And so depending on how you're feeling within a given day, you're going to go to feel, take those feelings and make a decision or question yourself, basically like instill lack of self-confidence around a particular thing because of how you're feeling. So, somebody says something, it makes you feel bad, disappointed, frustrated, angry. And so what we tend to do is we channel those feelings into the way that we communicate or into the decisions that we make. And we really need to take a step back and rethink that. So what are you thinking about, or how are your feelings driving that? Guilt beating, or basically thinking of words like should, must, ought, have to. What do you do to actually create guilt in yourself? Like, I have to eat right or I'm going to be fat, or I must do the dishes right now, or this kitchen's not going to get cleaned, or just anything that's going to really bring guilt into your life when really it's not necessary. Labeling ads, basically attaching a negative label to yourself or someone else. In other words, if a person's particular, or maybe they always come back with an answer or a question, and you think they're not listening, you just label them, right? Well, that person never listens. Well, maybe, right? But in most cases, it could be the way that it's being communicated to them, the way that you're talking to them, the tone. Like, labeling a person, particularly labeling in a negative manner, is not conducive, not to your health or to them, or relationships, or in general. So a labeling ant is something that you need to work on. And then one that is often found in many people on a daily basis, particularly kids, is blaming. So the blaming ant literally means you're not taking accountability for anything, right? You forgot to flush the toilet, or did you brush your teeth? Well, no, so and so was in the bathroom blocking me from getting my toothbrush. Well, no, I didn't flush because, just name the excuse, right? So what you're doing is you're taking the accountability off of yourself and you're placing it on someone else. And it happens a lot with siblings, it can happen with classmates, it happens a lot with adults in the professional world too, because we sadly grow up thinking about mistakes as a negative. And so if we encounter a mistake, we try to blame something or someone to take our place. But in reality, having accountability is best. So those are the top 9 ants that really can, I would say, infect your brain or infect your thoughts of the decisions you can make. So let's go through just a couple more examples here, right? So my wife never listens to me, or my husband never listens to me. Again, that would be the always thinking ant, right? And in reality, it's probably not true. Like, your husband or your wife often probably does listen to you in most cases, but maybe they're distracted today, or maybe you're in a conflict, or, there's always a question to ask. How about my boss doesn't like me? Mind reading, right? You don't really know that for sure until you ask them, or to really dig into what's going on. Like, how are they feeling? How are you feeling? Is there insecurity in place? Like, just saying that your boss doesn't like you actually doesn't get to any of the root cause or the actual truth. Maybe he or she just is having a bad day. I need to talk to them, right? It could be that is easy as that. All right, last example I'll give you. I'm a failure, and this one's not good at all, right? You don't want to be in a place where you're feeling so down on yourself, and that's why we're doing this course as well, right? The fork in the road. Like, we can hit these for these obstacles in our life where we are forced to make a decision, and sometimes we lean on blaming ourselves internally, and I'm a failure is a big labeling ant. So don't do that. So sometimes you could rephrase it, right? Sometimes I failed, but I always look to learn from it. Positive, right? I'm gonna have a great day today, even though I had a terrible time yesterday, or my feelings hurt, or I damaged relationships. It doesn't mean that you're a failure. It just means that you can take one more step forward towards progress. And so these are examples of how ants come and go within your thoughts. And again, of those 75 to 80,000 thoughts that you have. So just think about it. If you're spending all of your time with thoughts that are related to these negative concepts, just how that is stealing and steering your brain towards a path where you don't want. And ultimately, it's probably leading you to an undesirable outcome. So that's a basic intro on ants. I provided resources for ants, and we won't cover it in this course, but dragons. And there's an awesome book out there around taming your dragons. And so there's dragons in there that come from your past, and they kind of shape the way that you think, feel, take action, make decisions, think about others. And so that's just another aspect of this. but I placed that resource here for you to access. And then what I'd love for you to do is actually go through the ANT exercise that is also included in this lesson. All right. So next up, let's dig into habits. In other words, how can we define aspirations that we want to change our behaviors? And what does it look like to actually change that behavior? You know, matching what the formula suggests by BJ Fogg, which is behavior change is really related to motivation, action, and prompts. And so we're going to dig into that. We're going to dig into the steps of making change and behaviors happen. And this will also help you build a daily, brain healthy habit plan for the future.